All right, all right. I'm Wayne Hubbard, and I am the host of Urban American Outdoor Show. And I am so proud to be here with you. Could you imagine 6 months ago that we could be in a room like this? Okay, think about that. Also, what is really exciting about this is there is over 120 individuals in this room. But you know what we're doing? We are recreating responsibly, right? Now think about that. And there are so many more online watching this. I truly want to welcome you to the 2021 National Wildlife Refuge Association Awards. Can I get a hand for that? So I'm going to take a little quick, brief minute to tell you how I got connected with the Refuge Association. I've been hosting a TV show for over 20 years now, and the TV show is designed to show diverse people in the outdoors. And I was in South Dakota, pheasant hunting. And I asked, can I go see a conservation? I need to go somewhere where there's some woods and conservation. And I was with tourism. So tourism said, I got the perfect person for you. I got a wildlife refuge manager. I'm going to take you and drop you off. So it didn't click. I said, you're not going with me? He said, no, we're going to drop you off. So they dropped me off with this Fish and Wildlife Service guy. And that's when I knew they all were superheroes and they had superpowers. So they took me to this Perry Pothole region. And as we were driving there, even the deer were going like, brother, where are you going? What are you doing? So we get to this Perry Pothole region and we get out the vehicle. Fish and Wildlife Service got out, had no mosquitoes on him. He walked around. I was in a war zone. Mosquitoes were everywhere. My camera guy was going like, what's going on? I looked like a piñata. And we were talking and we were doing interviews. And, you know, normally doing an interview with someone like that, you got about an hour, 2 hours. 15 minutes later, I was done. And he was just walking around like, I'll tell you how bad it was. The mosquitoes were drinking off cocktails. They physically were like, so we got out of there and I did this amazing piece about the Refuge Association in Perry Potholes. So imagine 20 years later, I'm in a room with you guys talking about the amazing work that you guys do on the Refuge Service. You know, I want to just give a shout and a big hand out to everybody. So, you know, I'm not going to keep this too long because I got someone over here looking at me and saying, now wrap up, Wayne, wrap up, like I'm at the Oscars. So, but before I do that, I want to thank all the sponsors. I want to thank everyone here for being out here. And imagine, it's hard enough doing this work when there isn't a pandemic. So when you think about these people that are getting this award, and you think about the people that are not, that are just doing the work, imagine how difficult it is to have done this in a pandemic. So I want to take my hat off to everyone in here because everyone that works in this space has a legacy. And that legacy transcends. You know, today I was on a call with the White House and they were talking about what can we do? And they talked about everything except the refuge system. And I said, well, first and foremost, you can talk about the refuge system first. And so that's why it's important for me to be standing in front of you. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to call Carl, what is that, Carl Woodward? Come on up here, Carl. All right. We can do better. Give Carl a big shout.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you. All right. Hey, isn't it great to be here? Thanks, Wayne, for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Everyone, on behalf of our entire board and all the staff at the National Wildlife Refuge Association, I want to welcome each of you to our re-entry Awards Gala. That's right. Since the start of COVID, we haven't had any galas. We haven't had any in-person meetings. We had our first board meeting in person 3 weeks ago in San Diego. It's the first one since the start of COVID. And our awards gala last year had to be virtual. And we had a lot of people signed up, and it actually went really well, thanks to KB and his staff. It really went well. But in any event, this year it's hybrid. Hopefully next year, well, we may keep it hybrid because a lot of people can't make it in. But it's, it's great to see everyone here. And, it's like Wayne. I've been talking to Wayne for the last 6 or 8 months on Zoom calls. This evening was the first time I met him in person. Thank you, Wayne.
Who loves you, man?
I also want to thank all our fabulous donors who have underwritten this dinner. It's really grateful. We couldn't do it without you. This is a real cause for celebration as we gather together to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts, and you're going to see it in the videos, of all the volunteers and employees in the National Wildlife Refuge System. And these awards aren't just awarded to the individuals and the groups that get them tonight. They represent the work, the volunteer hours, and the working hours of all the people who participate in this system. The NWRA's mission is to protect, preserve, and enhance the refuge system. And we do this in many ways, including our awards gala, with which we honor all those who help make this the largest system of dedicated lands and waters in the entire world. What our foresighted leaders have created not only helps to protect and preserve wildlife in their habitat, but also places the system in the vanguard of mitigating the effects of climate change. So, thanks to everyone who volunteers, no matter what you do. Now, many of our board members are here this evening. I just want to call them out for you. First of all, we have our Vice Chair, Mike Baldwin. Mike, where are you? Our Treasurer, Jamie McClellan. Gail Carmody. Our lawyer, Rob Morgan. Nancy Marshall, Elaine Meyer, Jim Kurth, I think Dan Ash is here, and of course, Wayne Hubbard. We've got an exciting program for you this evening, but first I would like to introduce to you, with great privilege and honor, our U.S. Deputy Secretary of the Interior, Tommy Beaudreau. He returns to Interior after serving nearly 7 years at the department during the Obama-Biden administration, including as the first director of the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, acting Assistant Secretary for Land and Minerals Management, and Chief of Staff to Secretary Sally Jewell. Deputy Secretary Boudreau has more than a decade of experience in energy development, environmental conservation, and tribal consultation. He was born in Colorado, raised in Alaska, and currently resides in Washington, D.C. with his wife and 2 children. He's also a lawyer, which is near and dear to my heart. So, without more, Deputy Secretary, Tommy Beaudreau.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, it's good to meet you. Well, thanks so much, Carl. And you said it best. It's just amazing to be in a room full of people again and to be surrounded by so many good friends and so many good friends of the Wildlife Refuge System. It's just such an honor to be invited. Thank you, Jeff. I know we were laughing before, while we were getting a drink before dinner here about, just how many years of planning have gone into this event, given how much, disruption because of COVID. And so it really is great to be here. It is great to be representing the department. It's great for me personally to be back at the Interior Department as part of the Biden administration, working for Secretary Haaland, and not to be, political in any way, but to try to do our best to get the department back on its feet and recover and back on our core mission. So So I want to talk about kind of three things real quick. First, I want to talk a little bit about the America the Beautiful initiative that President Biden and Secretary Haaland have kicked off. And the overall goal is to conserve 30% of American land and water by the year 2030. And I will tell you that cannot get done without the refuge system. And the refuge system is incredibly valuable to the America the Beautiful effort in a number of ways. One, it is how millions and millions of Americans experience America and experience nature. It is when they think of America, and when they think of nature, and when they think of their participation in the outdoors, for millions of Americans, that means visiting a national wildlife refuge, whether that is to photograph birds, to hunt or fish, or hike around. That is what the outdoors means to millions of people. And we're going to be investing heavily in the National Wildlife Refuge System in order to, one, protect those values, ensure even greater access to a more diverse group of people to the refuge system, and to expand and protect what we have within the system. And so I'm incredibly excited about America the Beautiful. The other incredibly important dimension of it is, and this is where the refuge system again comes into play, is it is by design partnership driven. There are so many ways to do conservation in this country, and one of the key ways to do it is through partnerships with participants in nature, with federal agencies, with private donors, in order to protect, conserve, and access lands. And the refuge system is an absolute model on partnership-based conservation that I think can be replicated and built upon within the 30 by 30 umbrella. And then the last point about this, and again, the refuge system is a model, is part of what we hope to accomplish with 30 by 30 or America the Beautiful is to depoliticize conservation. Because the refuge system has always had massive bipartisan support, because regular Americans know what a wildlife refuge is, they know how they interact with it, they know how they experience the refuge system, and they support it. And so part of what we want to highlight is the importance of the refuge system in conservation, precisely because it helps us overcome all of the political baggage that sometimes conservation carries with it, including particularly out west, which leads me to kind of the second point I wanted to talk about, which is the Infrastructure Act that President Biden signed yesterday. And yeah, it's, and this joke's been made many, many times, and it was made yesterday at the signing ceremony in front of the White House, but his quote when he was vice president keeps coming back: this really is a big effing deal. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal for the Interior Department. It's a big deal for the Fish and Wildlife Service and the refuge system. And here's why. The Interior Department, through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, is getting $30 billion of investment in infrastructure. That means a lot of different things. It means water infrastructure out west. It means infrastructure on tribal lands. But it also means nearly $1 billion for climate and resiliency infrastructure. And anyone who knows anything about resiliency in North America and the United States knows that means investment in the Wildlife Refuge System. And so we have, it's a great problem to have. It's got me a little bit stressed out. I think we've got to absorb these resources and get them out on the landscape as quickly as possible, and to do it the right way. And so the only way we're going to be able to do that is through partnerships with states, through partnerships with private parties, through partnerships with NGOs, and build upon the success and model of institutions like the refuge system. So this is, it's a huge moment. And the other piece that's sort of exciting and terrifying about it is this isn't like a one-off, right? So, you know, I was part of the administration early in the Obama administration where, you know, there was the Recovery Act money and stimulus. This has like a dimension of that, but this is a funding stream over 5 years. And so we can be strategic in how we use these funds and how we build resilience, including through investments in nature, wetlands, and the refuge system. So it's what we came here to do. It's a total dream to be a part of it, and it's a dream to be working with the Fish and Wildlife Service again as we try to make the most of this on behalf of the American people. And then the last part I just want to touch on real quick is we still have to do our day jobs while we're doing all of this. And a big part of our day job is protecting the refuge system. And that means protecting places like the Arctic Refuge, and it means protecting places like Eisenbeck. And so I don't mean to sound like a homer, you know, I'm from Alaska, and I know there's other very important places in the country than those, and I know Jeff feels the same way, even though he and I talk about our bias for Alaska all the time. We need to do that as well. And so we have huge opportunities to expand conservation, but we also need to be protective of the system, and we need to be protective of wilderness while we do it. And so just love to see everybody. This is really a great night. So thanks, and turn it back over.
Good evening. I am honored and humbled to be the recipient of the National Wildlife Refuge Association's Employee of the Year Award. Receiving this honor is a testament to all of the outstanding people with whom I've had the opportunity to work with along the way. I feel no more deserving than any of my colleagues within the National Wildlife Refuge System. So many of you have worked diligently to meet the needs of the people and places we serve, all while rising above the odds during this unprecedented time. All of this year's nominees are a reminder that the National Wildlife Refuge System is a community filled with talented, dedicated, deserving people coming together to do excellent work. To be in the company of this year's Refuge Awards recipients is a tremendous honor. Congratulations. Each of you inspire me through your purposeful work. To be selected for this honor by the National Wildlife Refuge Association, the organization at the front lines of defending the integrity of the National Wildlife Refuge System, is a distinct privilege and a moment I will cherish forever. Thank you, Association, for everything that you do and give and inspire to ensure that the future of refuges thrive. and for hosting this prestigious award ceremony. I am so grateful for a career spent doing what I love. I always dreamt of having the direct opportunity to amplify the voice and visibility of wildlife in wild places, and I get to do that every day, as well as transform the way people experience and understand national wildlife refuges. I love working with people to stretch the capacity of refuges. This is especially true of my impact at the National Elk Refuge, whether it be modifying refuge hunting boundary signs with urban youth associated with Groundwork USA, or educating scouts during the long-standing annual antler collection, or monitoring the longest mountain bluebird nest box trail in the country, or moving an entire house from private property to serve as refuge government housing, or restoring refuge structures on the National Registry of Historic Places with HistoriCorps, or informing and inspiring how visitors experience a refuge. These projects take grit and hustle and innovation, and most importantly, collaboration with amazing partners and volunteers and agency staff. This award is especially poignant because long-serving U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service volunteers that I had worked alongside for many years nominated me. To the volunteers that nominated me, thank you from the bottom of my heart. The best part of this honor is nominated by each of you, my volunteer family at the National Elk Refuge. Volunteers are the lifeblood of the National Wildlife Refuge System. Volunteering is hard work. Volunteering does more than help people beat the odds, it changes the odds. Thank you to all the volunteers that change the odds for refuges across the country every single day. I have seen your impact firsthand. There is a tapestry of people that have been constant in their support of me. I like to think that you know who you are, my family, friends, former conservation-minded teachers and professors, mentors, those from the ranch, the inner circle. Thank you for lifting me up. And my parents, thank you for always supporting my dreams, as adventurous and as they may seem at times, and for loving me fiercely. The future of the National Wildlife Refuge System is a complex project in which we all have an active responsibility in. That's why I believe in and do our critical work. There is no better time than now to support refuges. Supporting and ensuring that national wildlife refuges persist for forthcoming generations is why I love what I do. It's the ultimate shared purpose. Let's collectively keep inspiring conservation stewards and guarding the essence of the National Wildlife Refuge System. Let's keep working together to lift refuges up. That's my hope and goal. Thank you again for this tremendous honor.
What a wonderful introduction. Friends of the Valley Wilderness is a little bit different than some of the other refuge groups in that we work for the entire state. We work and have partnerships with all four of them. So, Fish and Wildlife Service, Park Service, and of course, one of our very favorites, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And this has been like an incredible labor of love the last 5 years. They say that you can't fight the city hall. Try taking on the Air Force. It's been a challenge. It's been a really difficult fight for the last 5 years. With the Air Force wanting to take another 300,000 acres of the refuge to take it to their primary jurisdiction. And so we have fought very hard. And we brought a lot of people together. Jose is going to talk a little bit about some of the people, but one of the things that I wanted to mention is that, you know, our wildlife refuges are something that people across all parties really love. Wildlife refuges bring people together. It doesn't matter if you're a conservative or Republican or a liberal Democrat, you love wildlife. You love wildlife refuges. And with the political division so divisive right now, I really find that where we can find common ground and bring people together and find those places that we all love and focus on that, so often we have way more in common than we do. You know, we fight at the edges of things, you know, whether we have a vaccine or not. Really, in the scheme of things, how important is that? But protecting our wildlife refuges and our wildlife is super important. And I think that we have been successful in the battle on pushing back on the Air Force because we can bring people from all parties together to find and to fight for something they care very deeply about. And that's keeping those places wild, keeping them for the wildlife, and keeping them open for public access. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Jose to talk a little bit about how we built that coalition that Carolyn mentioned, that we're so honored to be here. The National Wildlife Refuge Association has been incredible. They've been a partner for all 5 years of us fighting against the Air Force expansion. They've been with us on meetings. They've been with us throughout everything. And to be able to be here tonight to help defend the largest wildlife refuge in the lower 48, the Desert National Wildlife Refuge, means so much to both Jose and I. It's truly a labor of love, and thank you for letting us be the advocates for this amazing refuge.
Wow, this is exciting. Thank you to the National Wildlife Refuge Association for awarding Friends of the Mountain Wilderness and Shaaron and I this award. Humbled. As Shaaron mentioned, it really was a passion of love. The refuge is literally 10 minutes away from my house, like via the visitor center, 10 minutes. And I've been going there since I was 16. So when I learned that the military was looking at basically taking over and not allowing the public to access much of it, it was really disheartening. It hurt the soul. And so with the ragtag group of folks in Southern Nevada, the Paiute tribes that have been huge in this campaign and should be on this stage, we got together and just really, classic grassroots, just really inform the community, what the threats were, what was at stake, and how we could fight back. And the first time the military had a public meeting, we were able to turn out 300 folks on a Tuesday night at some casino. And it was just one after another, no. It was really passionate to see a community come together and honestly really see democracy work. It is really, really inspiring. So I do want to thank some folks. First of all, I have to thank Shaaron and Friends of the Mountain Wilderness. They gave me an opportunity to work on a campaign like this. Prior to working in conservation, I was a banker, which isn't so rewarding, but I learned something there. But I was able to take some of the skills I had and bring them to conservation. So Shaaron has really been a mentor at campaign and advocacy, and I really can. It's changed my life. It really has. Also have to thank my ragtag group of friends that we formed. We just did dozens and dozens of trips out to the refuge, introducing folks why this place is so important. Again, I mentioned the Paiute tribes. Some of the folks that work for Fish and Wildlife Service that are now retired, they retired afterwards or during this campaign, and they were so supportive. A shout out to Kristen Smith, who was a complex manager out there, and Amy Sprunger, who was the refuge manager out there. Just provided so much support and information as to how we can basically explain what the values are to folks. And then the state of had our legislators, our state senators, legislators just got supported and got behind us to the point where the governor signed a resolution supporting and protecting the refuge. Huge, huge. And then, of course, our congressional delegation and senators, Catherine Cortez Masto and such, just helped us get this across the finish line. So we knew at the very beginning that in order to fight the Air Force, it was going to have to be a national effort. We're going to have to make the Desert Refuge a household name in the country. And I don't know if we did quite that, but we got it this far. And now with some legislation in the Senate, we're really excited to see some permanent protection for the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. So thank you all once again for having us. And I'm so excited to have this board. It's really cool. Want to wrap it up?
One of my very favorite books, and probably one of the ones that had the most impact on me, but Dr. Seuss, the Lorax, in that, there's a wonderful character in the Lorax who speaks for the trees because they don't have a voice. And I guess I see that all of the refuge groups out there, the volunteer groups, are the very, very embodiment of the Lorax. The refuges don't have a voice. And so we are all of us Loraxes and speak for our national wildlife refuges. And whether you're advocating to fight the military expansion into one of your refuges, whether you're fighting invasive species, or whether you're just fighting to make sure that our refuge system has the money that it needs to manage these amazing places, you are all Loraxes. And I challenge all of you to keep that voice and to go out and to speak for the refuge. Wherever you are, whatever you do, it's critical that those voices are there that are advocating for our amazing system of refuges. So thank you all for all the groups that are out there. You know, while we won the Advocate Award this year, we know that all of you are doing incredible work. And so this award is for all of you too. And thank you so very much.
Thank you, Jordan. When we began our adventure as RV volunteers for the Fish and Wildlife Service 6 years ago, it was a life-changing event. We sold our home, gave away most of our possessions, and moved into our RV. Living and volunteering on National Wildlife Refuges was a far cry from our careers as a computer programmer and a registered nurse. However, it did not take very long to discover that a formal education in conservation or environmental sciences was not required to become a useful volunteer. An inquisitive mind and a willingness to learn proved to be important traits to have. Our goal is always to help the refuge staff in any way we can. When asked if we will consider taking on a new assignment, our response is, that's what we're here for. Our lives as refuge volunteers have continued to be challenging, informative, and rewarding. We have to say that we were quite astonished when we were contacted by Elaine Meyer, informing us of being awarded Volunteer of the Year by the National Wildlife Refuge Association. It is gratifying and humbling to be acknowledged by such a prestigious organization. To be honored by people who share our love of the refuge system is truly heartwarming.
We would like to take this opportunity to congratulate tonight's other award winners, as well as the many deserving people who were nominated. We wish to acknowledge their efforts and dedication to the refuges they serve. Without our refuges, many habitats essential to supporting diverse wildlife would disappear. We've encountered visitors who have expressed how visiting the refuge has helped their physical and mental well-being. We also think that refuges are a wonderful place to expose the younger generations to the benefits of setting aside and protecting natural habitats to ensure the continued support for these important areas. We've met many dedicated refuge staff, interns, and volunteers who work tirelessly to keep the refuges running and maintained. Although we cannot name all of these wonderful people, we would like to mention a few. Kimberly King-Wren, Visitor Services Manager at Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, who nominated us for this award, and Anne Marie Chapman, Visitor Services Manager at the Long Island National Wildlife Refuge Complex, who gave us our first positions as RV volunteers, and the many community volunteers who come faithfully week after week to lend their assistance, and to our fellow RV volunteers who've shared their expertise and enthusiasm for the refuge.
In conclusion, we would like to encourage anyone who is interested in protecting the environment to consider volunteering for a local National Wildlife Refuge. Your talents can be put to use in many capacities, such as office or clerical work, construction or maintenance skills, front desk staffing, and other areas. Staff and volunteers are happy to help train you for whatever assignment you feel comfortable doing. We are confident that whatever you do on and for the refuge will be immensely rewarding and satisfying. Even on days when we return to our motorhome, tired or smelling of garbage juice, we feel satisfied that we have contributed to the successful running of the refuge. To paraphrase Mr. Spock, we hope to live long and prosper while on this adventure at National Wildlife Refuges. Thank you again.
Everyone, my name is Philip Pollock. I'm the president of the Friends of St. Mark's Wildlife Refuge, coming to you from beautiful St. Mark's, Florida. And this afternoon, I'm standing here in front of some key habitat, flatwood pine growth in our refuge property. This habitat is home to actually two key wildlife efforts that we have here and sponsor. The red-cockaded woodpecker and the frosted flatwood salamander. We're so lucky in this community that the public supports these two important wildlife initiatives. At the same time, we get really significant help from two key sponsors, Dr. Ed and Hilda Carney, and nationally recognized author Jeff Vandermeer. Before I get too far along here, though, I want to say thank you so much to the National Wildlife Refuge Association. Man, these guys and gals are wonderful, wonderful people. They've given great help coaching us along the way and publicizing our recognition as the Friends Group of the Year for 2021. Thank you so much. Also, I know that all of you are aware of the importance of the board that you're affiliated with for any Friends group, and that's certainly the case here. The board that I'm affiliated with and honored to be with are very active, very aggressive, and we get things done. It's a small group, but we do get things done. And I can't say enough about how important they are in the work that we do for the refuge. Where the refuge is concerned, their manager, Terry Peacock, and her staff are an integral part about all of what's happening here. This affiliation that we end up having to provide support for the refuges is a give and take, and they help us, we help them. It's a wonderful situation, and I want to say thanks to Terry and all of her staff. Also, it's ever so slightly awkward for me to be in a position like this and accept an award for our Friends group, because I'm well aware of all of the people who came before me and laid a foundation for what's happening today. So many people who were, uh, you know, great intentions for the use of a refuge property, good, clear, sound thinkers who made this happen, who looked into the future and knew that we could achieve this sort of greatness. So I want to say thank you for all of those people who participated on boards before I ever got here. And that's a huge part of what this recognition is about. Also, I want to say that yes, it's a wonderful thing to get an award like this and to be representing our friends group. But in the work that I've done over the past year as president, I've communicated with a lot of you. I know what all of you are doing. I know how hard you all work. And so tonight, I'd like to share this with all of you and say that this is for all of you who go out there and help your refuge properties, because it's important to the public. It's important for our future success to maintain these properties. Thank you, National Wildlife Refuge Association. Thank you, friends groups. I appreciate you letting me come into your meeting this evening. Thank you so much.
So what I'm not going to do is actually introduce the 2021 Paul Craigel Award Refuge Manager of the Year, and that's Steve Berendzen. This award recognizes outstanding accomplishments by refuge manager in the protection and management of our national wildlife refuges. The award is given each year in honor of Paul Craigel, first manager, first refuge, established in 1903 at Falcon Island, Florida. His dedication and effectiveness set a high standard for those who follow. This award is presented each year for current refuge manager, whose accomplishments are judged to best exemplify Paul Craigle's legacy. Steve has had a remarkable career in support of the National Wildlife Refuge System, working across the system from the Hawaiian Islands to the Alaska Arctic. Steve has worked his entire career in refuges, beginning in 1985, and has worked in numerous regions of both field and regional office level of the organization. Actually, when I started looking at Steve's background, I realized I've known him for like 25 years. I must have known him when he first started, which makes me feel very old, but super cool that I was able to be involved in a lot of the work that's done over the years. His early career experiences were in Hawaii and California. After that, he served as a refuge manager at Sequoia National Wildlife Refuge, which is the first place I met him when I was the deputy regional director in Albuquerque. He then became refuge supervisor for the National Wildlife Refuge in the state of Montana, Wyoming, and Utah, based in the Denver regional office. He next served as a refuge manager at Rocky Mountain Arsenal National Wildlife Refuge in Colorado. I can remember going to visit him when I was the chief.
Thank you. This is a huge honor. I really regret that I can't be there with you in person.
In conjunction with the U.S. Army and Shell Oil. Steve's lifelong dream was to go to Alaska, which came to fruition when he hired as a refuge manager in Yukon Flats National Wildlife Refuge in 2012. I was lucky enough to be regional director in Alaska at that point, so I welcomed him to the region when he came. This was the second time in my career where I had a great portion of work with Steve. At Yukon Flats, Steve was responsible for managing more than 11 million acres. I don't think you really picture 11 million acres is. That's larger than the states of Vermont and Connecticut combined. That's the one refuge that Steve started on in Alaska. In early 2017, Steve stepped up to serve as the acting refuge manager at Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And he did that at a time when things were going to get very controversial. I'm not going into politics of it, but we had 4 years of some kind of major problems on the Arctic Refuge, where I think they're all turning around now. There's a lot of work still to be done. But he had the honor of being a refuge manager during a time it was very difficult to actually do the job of a refuge manager. But even then, Steve oversaw some of the most significant research challenges in the history of this iconic refuge. He did it really well. In his current role as the refuge manager at the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, Steve is responsible for over 19 million acres of refuge lands, including about 8 million acres of congressionally designated wilderness. And those of you who don't know, when the Arctic Refuge was established, the newer form of it, 40-some years ago, Congress could not make a decision on how it should be managed, whether it should be wilderness or it shouldn't be, recognized some years of like fights and debates over it. And depending on the administration, sometimes they push to open up oil and gas, sometimes Congress says it, sometimes it's the other way around. So the Fish and Wildlife Service was directed to manage the Arctic Refuge as if it was wilderness for the last 40 years. 4 years ago, we came to this thing where suddenly it was open to oil and gas exploration, which we're still fighting very hard. Steve accepted the role as the refuge manager dealing with all these issues over the last 4 or 5 years and just did a great job doing that. So aside from this adaptive challenge of managing for multiple diverse refuge purposes, which again, we very much disagree with, the Arctic Refuge remains one of the most pristine conservation units anywhere in the world. And he's the refuge manager. So part of what he has to do is building public trust, very diverse constituencies, obviously, support for the refuge system in Alaska. It can be especially challenging because of the size of the refuges, remoteness, the number of villages in Alaska. You know, we had, great to have Tommy Gaudreau here, who I was able to work on a lot of Alaska issues over the years. Of course, he grew up in Alaska, he understands it better than most people do. Alaska's a tough place to work. And Steve just did a masterful work being a refuge manager, one of the hardest, most difficult refuges, one of the coolest ones, but there is in the entire system. One of the hallmarks of an outstanding refuge manager is representing the agency in a productive way. Steve has been a true ambassador for the refuge system, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as a whole. Despite all these many daunting challenges, I could go on for hours on the challenge, but won't. We're going to kind of keep to the schedule here, but with managing our refuge, Steve kept a positive and optimistic outlook and kept lifting up the people around him, contributing to positive conservation outcomes. He makes it a priority to advocate for and mentor youth, emerging U.S. and fish and wildlife top performers, not just his own staff, but others outside the staff as well. He's well respected by his staff, peers, senior managers, who are marked by experience, judgment, and wisdom. Steve is a great choice for this year's Refuge Manager of the Year. And through the magic of virtual technology, we were going to try and do this live, but we decided that it wasn't going to work well enough. But we are very lucky to have been able to take Steve earlier. So I'm going to just turn this over to Steve, talking to us in the great state of Alaska. So, Steve Berendzen.
Thank you. This is a huge honor. I really regret that I can't be there with you in person. It might surprise some folks to hear an old dinosaur like me admit this, but I am amazed at the technology that brings us together virtually this evening. These capabilities have enabled us to continue our work, and it has demonstrated efficiencies that will help us more in the future. However, it's still hard to beat the interpersonal community we're accustomed to. I would like to recognize the great work that the National Wildlife Refuge Association does in supporting and advocating for national wildlife refuges, and for their efforts to create an awareness and appreciation for refuges among the general public. I think the Refuge Association has done a great job elevating the profile of the National Wildlife Refuge System throughout the country. I think I can speak for refuge employees by saying thanks for all that you do. I realize that there are thousands of very dedicated refuge employees, and to be selected as Refuge Manager of the Year is truly an honor. There are refuge managers all over the country who deal with a variety of threats to the refuges they manage, as well as the common threat of climate change that we all face. Where there are threats, there are opportunities, and some of my favorite memories are of living on a refuge or working on a rural refuge where I was able to integrate into the local community and had the opportunity to involve the community and its members as ambassadors and advocates of the refuge. The refuge system has its own family that provides support. The support of the regional offices and headquarters has always been critical for accomplishments in the field. And in the current situation, I have to brag on the Arctic Refuge team, as I like to refer to ourselves. I couldn't ask for a greater group of people to work with, very dedicated to doing the best work they can and committed to getting the job done in spite of a variety of challenges that routinely come up. It's been very rewarding to work with staff who have their level of skills and abilities, along with their dedication to national wildlife refuges. I think these folks have very promising careers. And the support provided by the Alaska Regional Office has been instrumental in allowing Arctic Refuge to flow with the tide as changes occur. I want to thank the many dedicated Fish and Wildlife Service employees, volunteers, and friends group I've had the privilege to work with over the last 37 years, and the various mentors I've had throughout my life. I've learned so much from these people. I just hope I can pay it forward to others. I suppose I should mention Arctic Refuge or the refuge lands since I've been stationed here for the last 5 years. I can truly agree that it's the crown jewel of the refuge system. Standing on top of a mountain in the Brooks Range with that incredible, endless view is a humbling experience. It makes me feel small and insignificant. Having that awesome experience is a great reward for the work you have to do to climb up there in the first place. And I haven't experienced any place that has provided the opportunity for adventure, discovery, and self-discovery in the way that Arctic Refuge has. One of the ironies of the job is that I've visited Arctic Refuge more times on my own time and my own dime than I have in my official capacity. I wonder if the staff would be willing to let an old fart like me volunteer for them after I retire. Oh well, thanks again for this huge honor, and thanks for all the work you do to support and advocate for our national wildlife refuges.
Now I have the honor of introducing Brian Arroyo. We had actually asked Martha Williams, who's the acting director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She's actually going to be, we think, and we're fully supportive of this. She's a great, going to be a great director of Fish and Wildlife Service. We actually had a confirmation hearing for the Senate tomorrow. And anybody who watched it, that's a pretty intense thing. So clearly she's got a lot of work to do getting ready for that. And she's picking a family they're coming in for it. So she planned on being here, but can't. But we're very lucky. She sent Brian Arroyo to represent her. So Brian, he's the Deputy Director for Operations of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Again, I realized Brian, I've known him for like 30 years. He's got over 30 years of public service. I've had the great honor of working with Brian in different capacities over the years. He started his career as a GS5 biologist at Arlington, Texas field office. He then served in Austin headquarters as senior staff in the ecological services program, where I think he worked for the late Sam Hamilton. Brian, where are you? You worked for Sam at that point. Sam Hamilton was one of the best directors of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So I had the great honor of working with Sam over the years. So Brian worked for him back then. Then from that job, he went in to be the Assistant Regional Director for Ecological Services in Albuquerque, where I think is where we found the first met. I was the Deputy Regional Director, so I was able to work with Brian at that point. He has since then served as a senior executive in DC in the Endangered Species Program, the Fisheries Program, Habitat Conservation and National Affairs Program, so a wide array of programs across the service that he's had the ability to lead. Serves as the Deputy Director in the Office of Environmental Policy and Compliance in the Department of the Interior. He's a longtime friend and ally of the National Wildlife Refuge System, and supporter of the work we do in the National Wildlife Refuge Association. So, Brian, thank you for coming, and the group is yours.
Buenas noches, good evening. Thank you, Jeff, for the kind introduction. Yes, we have known each other for about 30 years. It's not that I'm old, you are old. It is great to be here in person. This makes a big difference in being here with all of you and celebrating the winners of this year's awards. It's a special occasion. The National Wildlife Refuge System is the world's most diverse set of lands and waters for the enjoyment of the American public. Let's not miss that point. It is significant. The refuge system plays a critical role in conserving the country's wildlife. It offers amazing recreational opportunities for hunters, anglers, birders, photographers like myself, hikers, and many others who can enjoy the outdoors. Throughout the pandemic, people have found the refuge system. They went out to the public lands to find solace and connection, particularly families. The success of the refuge system is due to the dedicated work of service employees and the commitment of refuge volunteers who donate thousands of hours each year to refuges around the country. Partner organizations are also incredibly important to the refuge system success, and I would like to thank the entire National Wildlife Refuge Association for your support. Our partnership stretches from Maine to Hawaii and from Alaska to Florida. You're one of our core partners. I believe that successful wildlife conservation is a shared responsibility. Glad that you are partners. Last but not least, congratulations to all the award winners. We're so proud of the leadership, partners, and volunteers who are being recognized tonight. Without the dedication of employees, volunteers, and partners like those here this evening, we will not be successful in conserving wildlife. So thank you, and again, congratulations to you.
Well, folks, all these gotta come to an end. But the party is down the hall, baby.
I'm just playing. You know, one of the things that's really exciting about me, for me, is as a person who travels all over the country and hunts, fish, and actually on these public lands, is to realize that everyone in this room has helped me enjoy this space. And all these young people, the people that I engage across the country and across my TV universe, have access to go to the refuge system, and go to these public lands. So really what I want to do before I leave is I want to thank everyone in this room for the work that you did and the work that I know that you're doing. So can I get a clap for everyone in the room? To me, is so rewarding. Imagine 47 years ago, someone came up with the idea to start this association. And as someone who is a board member, that, you know, I was a little resistant. I was like, I want to be on that, man. It's been one of the best things that I've been able to be engaged with. As someone who supports the Fish and Wildlife Service and supports the refuge system, what better way can I support this whole community? So what I'm going to suggest before I leave is that you guys keep advocating, keep supporting, and support this association. Other than that, I want you guys to have a great night. I'm Wayne Hubbard, and I'll see you on the Great Outdoors.